Tony D and Little Joan were screenwriters rant on the Blackening, and I think it is a parody of like Saw, kind of those kinds of movies where it's like let's play a game, except it's a black version. I'm not quite sure it's a comedy though, because it's not. I don't know. Maybe it's kind of a comedy, like a comedy horror. Not sure. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys. Books 1 through 10 available at Amazon.com. Don't forget Kindle Unlimited is free. So yeah, I'm kind of not sure because I don't know. It didn't feel funny enough to be a comedy, but it didn't feel scary enough to be a horror. So I guess they're going for a comedy horror. So the premise is a group of friends go to a cabin in the woods to spend a weekend getting drunk and playing cards. And then they discover this game called the Blackening, where they have to play the game. It's incredibly racist. They have to play the game or like their friend is going to die. So it's kind of like Saw in that way. And then, of course, they pick a card and then they have to kill one of their own friends anyway to save the other girl. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like that's not the kind of trap. You have to give them a chance to survive, and then they make a bunch of jokes about who, because like it's you got to kill the blackest person in the room, and then they make a bunch of jokes where they all admit how they're not black in different ways, which were not really funny, if I'm being honest. It wasn't funny to me. They were okay, I guess. I don't know. They got a little political, and I mean, they're trying to be funny, but I mean, this guy was kind of like a beta male type dude. I don't know. Doesn't seem crazy enough. Seems like again, you gotta go big when you're doing comedy. I don't know any of these actors. I don't know if any of them are stand-up comics. It doesn't seem like it. So this is the Blackening character. I don't know. I don't really get it. Play the game before it plays you. And like one of the guys has a gun, so but the other guy's got a crossbow. Like that's his deal. He's gonna kill people with the crossbow. He like shoots out of the dark. I don't know. How does nobody have like a cell phone to shine a light in there? But whatever. And then there's a scene where she tries to put on a front, a male voice, and then slips into DMX, and then chastises herself for it. June 16th. I don't know. It's not. It's. I don't know. It's just not funny. If you're gonna make it kind of about Saw, and it kind of is, then I think you probably needed to push it further. If it's basically the character's a racist version of Saw, then he should be like, super racist. Like, really say some stuff. Or maybe he's not. I mean, you can't soft pedal a concept like that and expect people to laugh. I mean, it should be outrageous, right? They should be saying some stuff, if that's what it's going to be. Or it could just be, I don't know, it could just be like every trope about people in horror movies, and why don't people just leave, and then like the characters do it because they're black and they're, I don't know, they're not going to be like the white people who are in horror movies, I guess, but it doesn't really come off that way either. They're kind of like trying to balance too many things, it feels like. I think if they had just made this an outright comedy, like Scary Movie, I think it could kind of work, You could kind of make this work. And then you would throw in a bunch of tropes from a bunch of different horror movies, right? So what you'd want to do is, if you're going to go with the angle, I mean, it's called The Blackening, so I guess it's supposed to be a comedy. So if you're gonna go with that, then what you want to do is see like a black version of every slasher movie trope and character you can possibly jam in it, right? So maybe have the blackening character keep changing his costume, so that way you see like a black version of like Freddy and a black version of Jason and a black version of this character and that and Michael Myers, and you could do something with that maybe, and then you could do like the black killer's version of whatever famous tropes, because you kind of got to do some parodies in it to make a concept like this work from a comedic level, I think. I mean, I'm just trying to work with the concept. I don't think it's a strong concept either. Probably the racial angle was not the way to go at all, because then you step into like, well, which tropes are funny and which ones are kind of only funny because they're a little bit racist, you know what I mean? So I would probably step out of that altogether and just do, a comedy movie about people being hunted on a weekend, a horror comedy. But you got to give us, it can't be totally silly. I mean, the whole game thing is totally silly. You might as well do a parody of Jumanji at that point. So it doesn't hold weight in the horror area, I think. And that's part of the problem. It could be funny in that way if you set it up, I guess, that, I mean, one of the characters has a gun, so that's a big problem. That's a big problem for the killer. They're armed. So, I mean, that's an easy problem to solve. No one brings a gun, right? But I don't know. What are you saying by having a character? Oh, well, we have to have a character that has a gun. Well, no, you don't. You could have just left the gun out of the mix, and then they're more vulnerable. I mean, you have to make the characters vulnerable to make the scary part work. So, I don't know what you could do with this. I mean, it just seems like, who wrote this? I don't know. So, first act, it's pretty standard. They're going to go to the cabin, and they establish all the characters. There's a lot of characters, so I guess a lot of people are going to die. They're having fun. They're kidding each other, getting drunk, and then they discover the game, and then they have to suddenly start picking people that die in order to save their friends, but they hesitate. She dies, and then they have to escape the house, and there's just various ways that they're not escaping, and the evil mastermind keeps forcing them to play the game, and at first they refuse to play, but then they're forced into playing the game again, and then finally at the end they turn the tables on him and kill him and expose who he is. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of room for comedy in the concept itself, because you've got this racial angle, and we're not at a time in our history where that stuff would be fun at all. If back in the Richard Pryor days, I mean, he could do cool stuff with that, and that was funny. I mean, I'm sure you could get someone like Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock to write something funny for this. I mean, guys like that should be in this movie. I mean, that would be a great movie, right? Like Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, like every black comedian known to man jammed in this movie on a weekend, and one by one they're getting killed, but they're making jokes as they're all dying. That would be a fun movie, but I don't think they had the budget for that kind of crew. Let's see what the synopsis says. 7 black friends who go away for the weekend. That's probably too many. Only to find themselves trapped in a cabin with a killer who has a vendetta. Now, one of the characters is making jokes about his white wife, but I guess she didn't go on the trip. Will their street smarts and knowledge of horror movies help them stay alive? Probably not. Okay, so it feels very much like a comedy. But the fact that I had to kind of debate that in my own mind, it's not a very good sign, right? It's like, it should be pretty evident. And the way you do that is you gotta go big. There's gotta be a big, hilarious scene in this where they parody slasher movies, or if it's going to be original, then it's got to be a little more character based. And then we got to get to know these characters and why it's funny that they're screwing each other over. Like that could be a thing, right? So they get trapped in the house and they try to get out, but they're trapped, and one by one they're being killed. But like the killer implies if they screw each other over, he won't kill certain people, right? Like, whoever wins the game will survive, and then maybe they all turn on each other. That could be fun. But the one guy has a white wife. Is the white wife going to be the murderer at the end? Because I guess she didn't come to this thing? I don't know. Not sure what they were going for here. 10 years ago, this could have been a movie. Hilarious, crazy, outrageous. I think it definitely needed to punch it up. I mean, it doesn't feel funny. It just kind of feels like it's there. I want to see like big characters, big deliveries, big payoffs. Not like realistic payoffs, unless you're going to delve into the characters, and then maybe you could make that work, right? You could, for instance, have one of the characters, maybe he's a gangster. He's a little bit gangster. Maybe that's why he has the gun. And then he's like the first to die, or he's a coward at heart. Or maybe he's not a gangster. Maybe he's like one of these rap stars who pretended and then he admits that he wasn't. And, making it so like they have to choose. Like, again, the game has to be, they have to have a chance at winning. But they don't win because they make the wrong decisions, or they are not the people, like they get punished for hypocrisy. That's typically what the situation would be. Not that like, well, either one of you has to die or one of them. That's not a good choice, right? Then you're making everybody bad, right? If they choose, they end up killing one of their friends and to save another. That doesn't seem right. And if they don't choose, the other person dies. They should have a way out, even if it's a very slim chance and the guy like cheats. Which probably would happen. Or it should be like, who's the murderer? Like, one of us must be like more of a mystery. I don't know. I'm a little lost on this trailer. It just seems like, even in the trailer, they wasted a bunch of setup time in the beginning, showing me scenes of them getting into the house and finding the game. Like, there's too much of that in the trailer. Like, I get it. This has been set up before. Do you want to play a game? You don't need to show me a lot of footage of that. In fact, you could like just start with it. You could, after you set up 7 friends go to a cabin. Again, the voiceover streamlines the process a bit. So even the trailer feels a bit, luxurious in its rollout. And then if you're going to roll out jokes, man, you got to hit me with something really funny. So it's called The Blackening. If maybe the funny stuff's in the other scenes they didn't put in it, but it drops June 16th. I don't know what else to say about it. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more bass takes. If you can find a more bass take, take it. And we'll see you in Millburn, New Jersey for my signing tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the Bookhouse. See you in the next video.